Chapter 41, Leaving a Message on a Knight's Departure. Chapter 41, Leaving a Message on a Knight's Departure. Han Li didn't have much time left. At most, he had another 4 to 5 months before he and Dr. Mo completely revealed their trump cards. Before then, he had no choice but to acquire skills to defend himself. As a result, he ultimately decided to only cultivate the simpler and easier mysterious techniques that could be used immediately. The more difficult ones would be put to the side temporarily. After he managed to escape the tiger's den, it would not be too late to resume practicing them. This would greatly cut down his cultivation time, enabling him to quickly and thoroughly master many of simpler secret techniques. Han Li's mind understood. Even if he could completely master this secret technique, he wouldn't necessarily be Dr. Mo's match. If Dr. Mo hadn't been lying last time, his strength would be comparable to that of a region's illustrious overlord. Han Li did not know how many ferocious and vicious moves hadn't been exposed during their last counter. He feared that the skills that Dr. Mo had revealed was only a fraction of his true strength. As Han Li thought of Dr. Mo's monstrous agility, a burst of cold fear entered his mind. He was well aware that the time he had to learn was short and that any threat he could muster against Dr. Mo would be awfully marginal, almost negligible. But to have his hands tied and allow himself to be manipulated was something Han Li could not allow. Han Li knew that if he were to raise his hand against Dr. Mo, he would only have one decisive opportunity to seize a victory. Dr. Mo would most likely look down on him. Only by using Dr. Mo's carelessness and negligence against him would Han Li be able to catch him off guard and possibly obtain the opportunity to live. In the following days, Han Li finished memorizing all of the blinking sword art manuals. From the manuals, he selected the secret techniques that were the most useful to him. He began to research them, meditating on the cultivation paths that would yield the quickest results. He racked his brains for a few days. An entire set of cultivation methods from the manuals were laid out before him. Within this short time period, he was able to complete such a complicated task, making him feel pleased that his efficiency was extraordinary. During the second half of the month, Han Li handled a few trivial affairs, fully preparing himself by making sure that there was nothing left to worry about. First of all, he returned the secret manuals to Li Feiyu and took the opportunity to tell him about his encounter with the feral Wolfgang spies as well as the real identity of the kitchen steward. After Li Feiyu heard this, he was pleasantly surprised. He embraced Han Li's shoulders and repeatedly said, "Good brother," for presenting him with such a great merit without taking any of the credit. This moved him greatly. However, he didn't know that Han Li's life was currently busy. How could Han Li possibly think about catching a spy? By telling Li Feiyu, Han Li wouldn't have to trouble himself with the matter and would also be currying favor from the senior disciple at little cost to himself. What would Han Li have against this? Once he finished his business with Li Feiyu, Han Li paid a visit to the sect's most skilled blacksmiths. He then placed orders for several daggers and secretly requested a few minor modifications. In addition, he ordered a few seemingly useless and obscure items, including several small exquisite iron bells. He also requested that all the items be forged with haste. As a result of his large purchase, Han Li had spent a considerable amount of silver, causing him to feel a slight heartache. Several days later, Han Li received his order from the blacksmiths. Seeing the shining daggers and small exquisite bells, he was very satisfied. He showered the blacksmith with praise, knowing that his silver was not spent in vain. That night, Han Li left his residence and disappeared without a trace. The only thing he left behind was a slip of paper on his bedside with the following words: "Elder Mo, you need not worry, I did not run away and hide. I merely felt that being with you in the valley was far too stifling to cultivate the eternal spring arts. For this reason, I decided to find a different secluded location in this mountain and enter closed-door cultivation. Please be at ease. After 4 months, I will punctually return and meet with you. With respect." Han Li reading this out loud while sitting on his armchair. Dr. Mo grabbed the slip of paper in his left hand and quietly looked at it, his face still covered by dark clouds. On the side of the table, there was another note from the blacksmith, detailing Han Li's recent order. At this moment, Dr. Mo lightly tapped the desk with a finger from his right hand. Pu pu, no other sound echoed. Suddenly, he coldly snorted. The paper in his hand turned to fine ash and drifted into the air. He stood up unsteadily and paced around the room. Dr. Mo wrinkled his brow in contemplation. After pacing back and forth a few times, he stopped and said to himself, "Little bastard, although I don't know what sly plan you have in mind, you will not escape the palm of my hand regardless of what trick you play. I need you too much to allow that to happen." After he finished speaking, Dr. Mo suddenly turned around and walked to the window. A low and lengthy whistle left his mouth. Immediately after, a small and obscure yellow-feathered bird flew into the window. It flew several circles around the room before landing on his shoulder. A single small bird stood firm. It affectionately rubbed its beak against his face, letting out a melodious glulu. "All right, I know you're hungry. Here, it's your favorite yellow chestnut pill." Upon seeing the bird, Dr. Mo's gloomy face revealed traces of a doting smile. From his pocket, he took out a yellow ball of bird feed and put it into the little bird's mouth. "Go. It will be like before. Follow that person diligently. If he leaves the mountain range, return to me immediately." Dr. Mo spoke to it as if he were talking to a person. Glulu. After finishing its meal, the little bird let out an excited coo and flew around the room. After hearing his words, it left through the window and its figure faded away into the sky. Humph! Under the surveillance of the cloud-winged bird, known to travel even faster than a flying arrow, I wonder what tricks you will pull, he said to himself sinisterly. For months. I will wait for the day of your arrival. It appears that my plan will be a success. Who would dare obstruct my progress? If they obstruct my plans, I will kill them. If a god hinders me, that god will die. If a Buddha hinders me, then that Buddha will die. Ha 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 ha. Dr. Mo suddenly laughed wildly, his eyes filled with a crazed expression. Chapter 42 Cloud-Wing Bird. Chapter 42 Cloud-Wing Bird, you are too full of yourself. That little brat is brilliant and is definitely someone who will spare no expense to achieve his aims. Don't count your chickens before they hatch and carelessly overlook things, lest you suffer your downfall at the hands of this little brat. Suddenly, the voice of a youthful man rang inside Dr. Mo's mind. Dr. Mo's expression changed in an instant, as though it was covered by frost. He icily replied, "You Jitong, you better not intrude in my business. Do you think you are qualified to tell me what to do? If I can succeed, I naturally won't forget about my promises towards you. Instead, the question is whether you are scheming behind my back. Are you withholding some crucial parts of the cultivation art you imparted to me and hoping that some accident will befall me?" Dr. Mo's voice was filled with suspicion as he replied. The youthful man's voice seemed somewhat terrified of Dr. Mo, and he hurriedly assured, "How could there be any mistakes? Didn't you already test it on some animals? Other than the one that passed away due to its unfamiliarity with the cultivation art, didn't the rest survive? The failed experiments shouldn't hinder your plans, right? HMPH. That better be the case. It's a pity that I can't cultivate. If that weren't the case, my chances of succeeding would be increased by a large degree." As Dr. Mo heard the explanation from that mysterious voice, the last shred of caution in his heart melted away. After finishing his sentence, that mysterious voice maintained its silence as though it was taught a lesson, leaving Dr. Mo to mumble crazily to himself. This caused the entire room to be filled with an eerie atmosphere. At this moment, Han Li was holed up in an unassuming cave. This cave was even more secretive and remote than the meeting place he found with Li Feiyu. The layout of the area revealed that the only path to this cave was obscured by two mountain peaks that formed the shape of a line. The mountain ravines were swamped with shrubs and plants on both sides of the path, making the path impossible to traverse. The only way to arrive at the cave was through a hidden rope that dangled from the top of one of the mountain peaks. Other than that rope, there were no other entryways. Thorny trees surrounded the area and occupied the majority of the area, only leaving a small piece of land where Han Li could cultivate. At the top of the mountain cave, there were some unknown vines weaved together into a natural canopy, so Han Li had no concerns that he would be accidentally discovered by random prying eyes. Han Li removed the items that he held on his body, placing them below an enormous mountain rock, and returned back to the center of this area. He closed his eyes, falling deep in thought. Suddenly, his eyes snapped open, revealing traces of determination in his eyes as he lightly said, "Let's start practicing from the soft bones art." And just like that, Han Li embarked on his path to cultivation. What he didn't realize was that not far from him was a yellow-colored bird perched onto a tree branch, constantly monitoring his movements. Because Han Li had no intentions of escaping, the yellow bird did not immediately rush to inform its owner. And within the mountain cave, a single glance could tell that there was no one else inside the cave. The only ones who were there were Han Li and that little yellow bird, which was preening its feathers as if it had forgotten its original mission. Suddenly, a gray-colored bird flew inside the canopy. It rested on top of a yellow pile of wood before taking off again. In that instant, when the yellow-colored bird saw a bird of the same species appear before it, its expression turned somewhat human-like as it became filled with disdain. The little bird that just arrived stood on one leg as it contemplated its surroundings. When it discovered the yellow bird, it flexed its wings, wanting to fly over. Abruptly, something unexpected occurred. A yellow palm appeared out of nowhere, catching hold of the gray-colored bird in a single attempt. This sudden change caused it to be terrified. It struggled in vain with its life on the line. No amounts of efforts could allow it to regain its freedom. At this moment, the little bird understood that what it had mistaken for a pile of yellow wood was actually a yellow-robed youth. This yellow-robed youth had a dark complexion and extremely ordinary looks. Other than his clear eyes, he had no other attractive features. The youth smiled slightly, looking at the struggling bird in his hands. When it finally grew tired, he opened his palms as he stated gently, "You can go. Don't be so foolish next time. Look carefully before you attempt to rest." Once the bird regained its freedom, it no longer bothered with the yellow-clothed youth. It frantically flapped its wings and flew out of the cave opening. As his gaze followed the path of the flying bird, the youth stood there mutely. Only after a moment passed did he begin to mutter under his breath, "Seems like my breath control and concealing techniques are already somewhat proficient. Next, I must practice my assassination techniques." After speaking, Han Li walked towards a small wooden house which he had built, and on the way there, he involuntarily glanced at the yellow-colored bird. This bird's strange actions had caught his attention about half a month ago. This bird would always perch nearby, observing his actions, as if the bird had gained intelligence. When he first saw it, he was amazed and captivated by the intelligence of the yellow bird. He tried to capture it but was unsuccessful no matter what methods he used. This bird seemed to have no inclination to be fooled. It even stared at Han Li as if he were an idiot, causing Han Li to smile bitterly. Afterwards, in a fit of anger, he tried to use direct force, but before he even got near, the yellow bird would soar to the skies, out of his reach. Whenever Han Li left, it would return back to its original spot. Han Li had no other ideas and thus could only stare at it from his original position. On the surface of his mind, Han Li no longer concerned himself with the bird. In his heart, however, he had already deduced that the bird was here for a reason. Perhaps the bird was sent here by Dr. Mo to spy on his movements. Even so, Han Li had no cause for concern. As long as the one doing the monitoring was not Dr. Mo himself, how many details could the little bird reveal? And in addition, he was amazed by the intelligence that this little bird possessed and was thus unwilling to use poison to deal with it. At this moment, Dr. Mo was in a stone chamber, using the bones of wild beasts to form a strange array formation. As he arranged the formation, he was discussing matters with the mysterious voice from earlier, not knowing that Han Li had already discovered the method he was using to spy on Han Li. Chapter 43 Fully Prepared. Chapter 43 Fully Prepared. At this time, the Seven Mysteries sect was undergoing a major event. It turned out that the idol of the current generation of disciples, senior disciple Li, possessed a perception far beyond that of his peers. He quickly saw through two of the feral wolf gang spies and their plot to steal the names of the disciples that were undergoing adventures away from the mountain. With 10 fellow disciples, they captured them in one move. This was quite a meritorious deed. Several days later, sect leader Wang awarded Li Feiyu the position of protector in the presence of many disciples. This caused him to stride forward to the 7 Mysteries sect's mid-rankings, leading to a rise of great sensation. Li Feiyu's reputation had grown even greater. Han Li didn't know of this at all. He was currently sealed off in a wooden house in the mountain, undergoing special training. Aside from occasionally going to the kitchen to get some food, he did not have any contact with others. He naturally did not know that his close friend was currently held in such high regard. Summer passed, followed by autumn. Time passed quickly until the arranged date had finally arrived. In the ravine of the overgrown forest, there was a strange, incomparable silhouette midst the overgrowth of the dangerously sharp and thorny branches. None of the sharp branches were able to obstruct the floating, smoke-like figure. In the thorny undergrowth, he weaved between the thick net like a fleeing demon. In a moment, he had appeared nearby. In the next, he was already a distance away. These motions were absolutely quiet, as if there were not a fleshly body but rather an incorporeal form. Finally, this silhouette stopped on top of a tree trunk. Vertically standing at its peak, he surveyed the surrounding distance. This was Han Li, with some success from his cultivation regime. Currently, the clothes on his body had turned to little more than worn, tattered rags, revealing his bare flesh. His hair was like a ruffled crow, while his face was a mixture of black and white. His original appearance couldn't be made out. What was most astonishing were the small exquisite iron bells, each hanging from his neck, waist, arms, thighs, and ankles. Seeing these iron bells and then thinking about Han Li's ghost-like movements in the forest, it would be hard to differentiate Han Li's body technique from the movements of an actual demon. Motionless, he turned his head toward the direction of God Hand Valley. He muttered to himself, "Just in time. I had just become proficient in the shifting smoke steps on this final day. With this technique, I have a slightly greater assurance of self-preservation." Although the expression of his face couldn't be seen clearly, the joy in his eyes wasn't concealed at all. After several months of diligent research and training, Han Li wielded a number of formidable secret techniques. He held quite a bit of confidence in them. Although he wasn't convinced that they could withstand Dr. Mo's unfathomable skills, he held some confidence that he could defend himself. A light breeze came. Han Li felt a slight chill on his body. He lowered his head to look at his clothing. Thinking about his current appearance, he couldn't help but bitterly smile. Recalling his training with shifting smoke steps, he still had some lingering fear. In the forest undergrowth where he cultivated the technique, he had lived through a truly frightening experience. When he started training with this strange technique, he was covered all over with cuts and bruises from scraping against the unavoidable, stiff thorns. Fortunately, he possessed vitality-raising pellets. In addition to treating internal injuries, they unexpectedly had an amazing effect on external injuries. After eating one, not only did it staunch the wound, there wouldn't even be a scar by the next day. Han Li clicked his tongue in marvel. This medicine was incredibly more potent than common concoctions. The only thing that confused him was why the medicine was named Vitality-Raising Pellet. It seemed to him that the names Scars Away and Staunch Bleeding would be more appropriate. If the experts that created the Vitality-Raising Pellet knew what Han Li was thinking, they would have likely spit out blood from anger. This elaborate and elusive healing panacea had actually been compared to the Golden Wound medicine, a common Jianghu elixir, by Han Li, who thought that it was only relatively stronger. How could these experts not die from anger? However, because he had practiced in such a dangerous environment, Han Li was able to make the fullest of his potential. Within this short time, his shifting smoke steps had reached the level of proficiency where he could immediately put it to good use. In addition, Han Li's eternal spring arts had just recently and unexpectedly broken through to the 6th layer. This was the highest layer of the chant that Dr. Mo had given him. Were it not for the assistance of those tens of elixirs, even if he were to exert all of his strength, it would have been unlikely for him to achieve this level of success in this lifetime. After a few years of cultivation, Han Li had quite a bit of understanding and experience with the eternal spring arts. He felt that this level of success was very unusual. Regardless of the means by which he cultivated, the effectiveness and results were completely different from common martial arts. Initially, Han Li thought that the success rate of cultivating this particular martial art, as well as the speed of comprehension, depended on one's individual talent. One bestowed with good aptitude would naturally perform as expected, without any obstructions. Even if one had no external assistance, by means of hard work, he or she would be able to reach a high layer. But if one's aptitude was no good, once a certain layer was reached, he or she would be unable to advance a single step further without the assistance from elixirs. Han Li estimated that in a normal cultivator's lifetime, he or she would stop at that very point without the slightest advance. This idea was very much reflected upon himself. In the past, he managed to cultivate to the third layer very smoothly, but at the fourth layer, he was met with incomparable difficulty and did not advance in the least. However, if one had elixirs, the impossible would become possible, and it would be possible for one to break through the limitations of their natural aptitudes and advance to another layer. With this in mind, it is obvious how greatly cultivation depended on the power of medicine. However, those like Han Li, who ate elixirs every day like snacks, were reckoned to be non-existent in the entire world. Therefore, it would be reasonable to say that the even more difficult fifth and sixth layer had been effortlessly cultivated by Han Li, who had not encountered the difficulty that he had faced from cultivating to the fourth layer. The cultivation of the sixth layer of the eternal spring arts, aside from making Han Li feel more vigorous than before, made his mind even sharper. For the time being, he hadn't discovered any other wonderful effects. What was strange was that ever since he cultivated this eternal spring arts, his spirit, mind, and five senses were somewhat strengthened with each increasing layer, but it had little effect on his body's health. He had no choice but to make his body sturdy and his footsteps light. In addition, his cultivation of the eternal spring arts had formed a new energy flow, which Han Li called pseudo-true qi. Although it moved through the channels of true qi, it did little more than make his sense of touch more sensitive. It did not have the same formidable might as true qi. Having trained this much, he was certain that the sixth layer wasn't the end of the chant. Perhaps it had the further wonderful effects that would be revealed in the later layers. Thinking of this, he helplessly shook his head and sighed. With regards to his current relationship to Dr. Mo, the final layers of cultivation was a matter he could only dream of. Halting his imagination, Han Li jumped, softly leaving the floor. Not a sound was produced. Then, with long strides, he walked to his residence. Tomorrow, he would meet with Dr. Mo, but before then, he had to make full use of his innate skills. His mind planned each step of his encounter with Dr. Mo in advance. He carefully pondered every finite possibility of the dangers that had yet to occur and formulated an optimal plan for responding to the threats that he simulated in his mind. Chapter 44 Antidote. Chapter 44 Antidote. The sun hung high up in the sky. Despite this time of year being the beginning of autumn, the heat from the sun was scorching hot. Dr. Mo was in his room, fidgeting. Although he was confident in his methods of dealing with Han Li, he could not be completely at ease. Suddenly, sounds of footsteps could be heard, slowly approaching his residence. When he heard the sounds of the familiar footsteps, Dr. Mo was filled with joy. He rushed hurriedly and opened the door. As expected, standing outside the door was his long-awaited target, Han Li. Looking at him as Han Li walked towards him, Dr. Mo fiercely suppressed the glee in his heart before allowing a trace of smile on his face. Not bad, you are indeed punctual. Seeing that you have made no attempts to escape, I'm truly happy. This means that you are intelligent. Let us enter the house before we have a good discussion. The expressions on Dr. Mo's face was like that of a kindly elderly neighbor. The smile on his face was akin to a blooming flower. You can relax, I didn't set any traps in the house, Dr. Mo quickly explained to him, seeing the alertness in Han Li's eyes. HMPH. Since I've dared to come, why would I be afraid to enter your residence? Han Li immediately replied, as if he couldn't stand the slightest provocation. After he replied, Han Li took a step to enter the residence. Dr. Mo immediately shifted his body to the side, allowing Han Li to enter. After Han Li entered, he extended his hands, attempting to close the door, but before he could do so, Han Li interjected without turning back his head, "If you dare to close the door, I will assume that you have some tricks up your sleeves." There's no way I would still discuss anything with you. After hearing Han Li's words, Dr. Mo panicked. However, he swiftly recovered and left the door open. Unsatisfied, he exclaimed, I truly want to have a discussion with you. I mean no harm towards you. Since you are not willing to let the door be closed, we will just leave it open then. After saying this, Dr. Mo reclined on his chair. The two of them silently stared at each other. They have not met for half a year, and thus, they were considering engaging each other carefully. In Han Li's eyes, Dr. Mo had clearly declined a lot. He looked even more aged and withered now, no different from a 70-year-old grandfather. Involuntarily, he murmured in his heart, could it be that what he said was true? All he wanted to do was to recover his vital energy. Was there truly no other sinister plan? Did I overthink things? As Han Li studied his surroundings, his pupils swiftly contracted. That muscularly built, mysterious figure was standing silently at one corner, like some sort of corpse. If Han Li had not meticulously scanned every corner, he would surely have missed him. After his prior inspection of Han Li, Dr. Mo was extremely satisfied with his condition. As such, he warmly stated, looking at the current you and comparing it to the person who had just entered the sect back when he was only 10 years old, you have already grown so much. The sudden shift in conversational topic and the change in atmosphere caught Han Li off guard, making him wary of Dr. Mo's intentions. However, in his heart, Han Li raised his alertness to its maximum level. This sly old fox, the salt he had eaten was much more compared to the rice Han Li had consumed star. If Han Li was the slightest bit careless, he would undoubtedly fall into a trap. Old Mo, I will forever engrave your care towards me in my heart, never forgetting it. Whatever request you have, I will try to fulfill it. Han Li's expression warmed, as if he had turned back to the obedient disciple he had been ages ago. Excellent. Excellent. Your words prove that I have not wasted my time and efforts on you. Come, let me see how much your progress with the eternal spring arts has improved. At that moment, Dr. Mo seemed to assume the role of the kindly teacher. Standing up, he directly attempted to take Han Li's pulse. Sly old fox, how cunning and thick-skinned. Han Li cursed in his heart as he swiftly sidestepped, avoiding Dr. Mo's hand. Old Mo, don't be in such a hurry. I can truthfully tell you that my eternal spring arts have reached the 4th layer. However, I want you to give me the antidote to the insect corpse pill first. After I'm cured, I will let you inspect my progress. Han Li smiled as he used a sincere tone while talking to Dr. Mo. Oh my mind must have become muddled. My memory is no longer as good as before. Initially, I intended to give you the antidote the moment you stepped in. Shock adorned his features as Dr. Mo seemed to have recalled something. He withdrew a silver flask from inside his robes and took out a black-colored, ordinary-looking pill, which he tossed towards Han Li. Han Li acted clumsily and barely managed to catch the pill that was tossed over to him. Bringing it to his nose, he sniffed it. Waves of spiciness were released from the pill. He inclined his head to look at Dr. Mo, only to find Dr. Mo smiling at him. He hesitated, suspecting the authenticity of this antidote. Yet, there was no way for him to avoid ingesting it because the insect corpse pill would soon activate. If he did not ingest the antidote now, it was equivalent to committing suicide. Han Li believed that Dr. Mo would continue acting cautiously and refrain from giving Han Li a fake antidote. Han Li's expression turned heavy as he chose to swallow the antidote, waiting for its medicinal effect to take place. At this moment, Dr. Mo was extremely relaxed. He began to chat nonchalantly with Han Li, as if he had forgotten what his real purpose was. Not long after, Han Li could feel a surging wave of immense pain originating from his stomach, but the pain swiftly subsided. He quickly began to inspect his own body and realized that the insect corpse pill had disappeared without a trace. Joy filled his heart, and his face broke out with traces of a smile. Naturally, the changes had not escaped from Dr. Mo's notice. He waited for Han Li, who was completing his inspection. With a huge smile on his face, he said, Han Li, when I gave you the insect corpse pill to ingest, it was merely to give you extra motivation. If not for that, I think you might have broken through to the 4th layers of the eternal spring arts so easily. Thank you for Dr. Mo's beautiful intentions. However, I hope that such intentions will not be needed in the future. After recovering, Han Li's state of mind improved, and he began to slightly believe Dr. Mo's sincerity. He was not as directly opposed to Dr. Mo as before. Now, will you allow this old man to take your pulse? Dr. Mo's words caused Han Li's expression to grow unsightly. To think that Dr. Mo would still request examine his cultivation. Who knew whether Dr. Mo would decide to grab this opportunity to further control and harm him? Chapter 45 Sneak Attack and Bared Teeth. Chapter 45 Sneak Attack and Bared Teeth. Han Li lowered his head as he pondered. It seemed that there was no way he could avoid Dr. Mo's inspection. Dr. Mo had actually given him the antidote without hesitation, showing his clear sincerity. If Han Li still tried to beat around the bush, Dr. Mo's suspicion would be raised, causing him to think that Han Li had not yet broken through to the fourth layer of the eternal spring arts and instead was lying to him with false words. If that were the case, things would likely take a turn for the worst, causing many unexpected occurrences beyond his control. Nevertheless, Han Li had long anticipated this moment and made his preparations. Even if Dr. Mo had malicious intentions towards him after taking his pulse, Han Li still had several ways to guarantee that he would be able to escape. As he thought of this, Han Li raised his head. He glanced at Dr. Mo with both eyes before saying, "Old Mo, seeing how willingly you presented me the antidote, I will trust you one last time. I hope you will not cause me to be disappointed." After that, he extended his right wrist towards Dr. Mo while silently observing the other party's reactions. If anything seemed out of place, he would instantly retract his arm. Regretfully, Dr. Mo maintained the false smile on his face. He could not detect any changes in Han Li. The only expression he made was a slight twitch of his eyebrow after Han Li agreed. Swiftly, he regained his original expression. It appeared that Dr. Mo had long expected Han Li to agree to his request. Dr. Mo made no reply as he silently extended his left hand and placed it onto Han Li's wrist. The smile on his face was slowly reined in, causing Dr. Mo to exhibit an extremely serious expression, as if he were carrying out an incomparably holy act. Han Li secretly caused his body to manifest the qi of the fourth layer. When he saw Dr. Mo's expression, he raised his caution and alertness to the highest stage while his left hand slowly dipped towards his waist, where he had hidden a recently manufactured short sword. Slowly, extreme joy broke out on Dr. Mo's face. From taking Han Li's pulse, he had discovered that there were unceasing waves of a mystical energy circulating within Han Li's body, its intensity far exceeding his expectations. Despite him being a cunning old fox with vast worldly experiences, he could not help but tremble slightly upon seeing that his only hope for salvation lying before him actually had a chance of succeeding. Excitement shone on his face. His smile was extremely radiant and couldn't be compared to the fake smile he had on his face earlier. "This is too wonderful. You really broke through to the fourth layer of the eternal spring arts. Ha ha. This is too amazing. Ha ha ha." Dr. Mo began to laugh uproariously, not bothering to maintain his previous facade in front of Han Li. The sound of his laughter reverberated through the whole house, but yet, his hands remained tightly clamped onto Han Li's wrist, as if he had no intentions of letting go. "Old Mo, what is the meaning of this? Let go of me." Han Li's expression turned chilly. He had expected something of this nature to occur and had attempted to retract his hand immediately after Dr. Mo's inspection, but Dr. Mo had given him no such chance. "Let go of you? Sure." Dr. Mo ceased his laughter. However, expression on his face changed. He suddenly unleashed a roar. "Tai!" Han Li felt his ears rumble as the world turned dark before his eyes. His body lost its balance, and he collapsed onto the floor. His left hand, which had been grasping onto the short sword's hilt, fell limply to the ground. F***CK. Even though his mind was clear, Han Li's body refused to listen to his commands. Despite all of his precautions, he still suffered from Dr. Mo's sudden sneak attack, causing him to unable to react in time. "Brat, you are still a greenhorn. No matter what tricks you have up your sleeves, you have no way to execute them now. Everything was going as he had predicted. Dr. Mo couldn't help but grin and appear smug after achieving his objective. Come over here. Dr. Mo's left hand pulled Han Li over, dragging Han Li's body towards his legs. Lowering his own body, Dr. Mo extended the index finger of his right hand and jabbed at the paralyzing acupoints located in front of Han Li's chest region. Pang! A sound rang out. Dr. Mo's finger met resistance as if it had attempted to pierce into a metal plate. His fingers trembled from the waves of pain that assailed him. For some reason, his acupoint stimulating technique had failed. What is happening? He became shocked as his heart shuddered involuntarily. Could it be that he wore a layer of metallic armor underneath his shirt? Dr. Mo wondered, surprised by the resistance. His gaze involuntarily searched Han Li's body. However, seeing how thin Han Li's clothes were, he shook his head and immediately discarded the idea. In the moment during which Dr. Mo was distracted, Han Li regained control over his body. His recovery abilities were far beyond what Dr. Mo had imagined. Han Li's true cultivation was at the 6th layer of the Eternal Spring Arts. He had truly not wasted his time and efforts in cultivating. His recovery rate was extraordinary, far surpassing even his own expectations. At this moment, Dr. Mo decisively discarded his train of thought, causing all of his confusion and suspicion to dissipate. He began to think of another method to control Han Li, but in that instance, he discovered that Han Li's wrist, which currently locked firmly into his grasp, suddenly became extremely smooth, as if it was soaked with oil. There was no way for him to forcefully exert his strength and lock onto Han Li's wrist. Disbelief clouded his features. He tried again, but Han Li's hand was akin to an earthworm in the soil, easily slipping out of his fingers. Dr. Mo grew increasingly frantic. Han Li would not believe him again no matter how much Dr. Mo pleaded. After Han Li was free, he began to roll his body on the floor towards the far end of the room. He only dared to stand up once he was at a far distance away from Dr. Mo. The current Han Li had no expression on his face. Both of his eyes stared coldly at Dr. Mo. There was no need for Dr. Mo to say any more nonsense. Although Han Li did not know the reason behind Dr. Mo's actions, he could tell that Dr. Mo most assuredly had bad intentions. It seemed like what Dr. Mo had said earlier was all a bunch of nonsense, not worth an ounce of belief. For the sake of his family as well as his own safety, Han Li drew the short sword, which had been hidden near his waist. This short sword was only a foot long, yet incomparably sharp. Its blade gleamed with a green light. This was a first-rate short sword indeed. Today, either you or me will perish. Only one of us can walk out of this place alive, Han Li coldly stated. Baring his teeth in anger as he glared at Dr. Mo.